15 years of dedication to Mercy General Hospital, and this is what it came down to: being dismissed like an orderly who'd wandered into the wrong room. Dr. Victor Preston's words echoed in my head as I walked away from the boardroom. This is for actual doctors, not just some nurse. I clutched my designer handbag containing the $50 million check that would save the hospital from bankruptcy and smiled. Tomorrow, they'd learn what just some nurse could do. My name is Alexander Mitchell, and I've spent my entire career being underestimated. When you're a nurse, people see the uniform, not the person. They don't see the nights you spend studying investment reports between rounds. They don't notice you monitoring stock tickers while monitoring patient vitals. And they certainly don't realize that the simple nurse they ignore has built a medical technology empire worth billions. It started 12 years ago, during a particularly brutal night shift in the ER. I watched another patient die because our monitoring systems were too slow, too outdated to catch the warning signs in time. That night, I went home and started sketching designs for what would become the Media Alert system, now standard equipment in hospitals worldwide. But at Mercy General, I was still just Nurse Mitchell, the quiet one who worked extra shifts and never complained. Even as my company, Mitchell Medical Technologies, revolutionized patient care across the globe, I kept working my regular shifts. The hospital was my home, its patients my purpose. Money meant nothing without the ability to directly help people. Nurse Mitchell, a familiar voice called out as I walked down the corridor. Dr. Sarah Wong, one of the few doctors who treated nurses with respect, hurried to catch up. Did they let you into the board meeting? I shook my head, adjusting my badge, still marked nursing staff, despite the fact that I could buy this hospital 10 times over. Apparently, it's for actual doctors only. Sarah's face darkened. That's ridiculous. You've been here longer than most of them. You understand this hospital better than anyone. If she only knew how true that was. For the past 5 years, I'd been anonymously supporting Mercy General through a complex network of shell companies and charitable foundations. Every time the hospital faced a financial crisis, mysterious donations appeared. New equipment arrived just when the old machines were failing. Scholarship funds materialized for promising medical students. But now, with Mercy General facing its biggest crisis yet, the anonymous approach wouldn't work. The hospital needed a complete overhaul. New facilities, updated equipment, expanded emergency services. The price tag, $50 million. Did you hear about Golden State Healthcare's offer? Sarah asked, lowering her voice. They're planning to turn Mercy into a luxury private hospital. No more charity cases, no more emergency services for the uninsured. I nodded grimly. Golden State Healthcare, a profit-focused corporation, had been circling Mercy General like vultures. Their CEO, Maxwell Richards, saw our struggling community hospital as prime real estate for his chain of exclusive medical centers. The board meets tomorrow to vote on the sale, Sarah continued. Dr. Preston's pushing hard for it. Says it's our only option. Dr. Victor Preston, chief of surgery and board chairman, was the biggest advocate for the sale. He'd been promised a prestigious position in Golden State's hierarchy, assuming he could deliver Mercy General on a silver platter. What he didn't know was that I'd spent the last month quietly buying up the hospital's debt through various subsidiaries. The check in my bag wasn't just a donation, it was a takeover. How's Tommy doing? I asked, changing the subject as we approached the pediatric ward. Tommy Martinez, a 10-year-old fighting leukemia, was one of our long-term patients. His family couldn't afford private care, making him exactly the kind of patient Golden State would reject. Hanging in there, Sarah sighed. The new treatment's showing promise, but it's expensive, I finished. Tommy's experimental treatment was another of my anonymous gifts to the hospital. He'll make it, Sarah. We won't let him down. My phone buzzed, a message from my company's legal team. Documentation prepared. Ready to proceed with Operation Mercy tomorrow. I smiled, remembering the day I started planning this takeover. It was 3 months ago, during another late-night shift. I'd overheard Dr. Preston in his office, talking to Maxwell Richards about cleaning house once the sale went through. These bleeding heart nurses and their charity cases, he'd sneered. Time to run this place like a proper business. That night, I called my financial advisors. How quickly can we acquire a controlling interest in a hospital? The answer, if you had enough money and the right legal team, was very quickly indeed. Alexandra? Sarah's voice pulled me back to the present. You okay? You looked miles away. Just thinking about tomorrow's board meeting, I said truthfully. I wish you could be there, she sighed. Someone needs to stand up for what Mercy General really means to this community. Oh, I'll be there, I thought. Just not how anyone expects. Walking through the pediatric ward, I stopped at Tommy's room. He was awake, playing video games, another anonymous gift. His mother dozed in the chair beside him, exhausted from working double shifts to cover what insurance wouldn't. Hey, Nurse Alex, Tommy called out cheerfully. Want to play? I spent the next hour with him, racing cartoon characters while monitoring his vitals. This was why I'd built my company, why I'd kept working as a nurse despite my wealth. Money was meaningless without purpose, and my purpose was here. My phone buzzed again. Press release prepared. Local and national media alerted for tomorrow's announcement. I have to go, Tommy, I said, standing up. Big day tomorrow. Will you tell me who sent the games? He asked hopefully. Mom says it must be an angel. I winked at him. Maybe tomorrow. In the locker room, I changed out of my scrubs into a designer suit that cost more than most doctors made in a month. The duality of my life always amused me. Nurse by choice, billionaire by circumstance. My assistant waited in the parking lot with a stack of documents. Everything's ready, Ms. Mitchell. The lawyers have confirmed our position. Once you present the check tomorrow, the hospital will be ours, I finished. And Dr. Preston's deal with Golden State will be worthless, she smiled. Would you like me to prepare a statement about retaining the current nursing staff? I laughed. Let's wait until after tomorrow's meeting. I want to see their faces first. Driving home to my penthouse apartment, paid for by the profits from medical patents I'd developed between night shifts, I thought about how everything would change tomorrow. No more hiding my success. No more being dismissed as just a nurse. But more importantly, no more worrying about Mercy General's future. No more watching dedicated healthcare workers struggle with inadequate resources. No more families choosing between treatment and bankruptcy. My phone rang. Dr. Preston's number. Probably calling to apologize for earlier, having realized he might need nursing support for his Golden State deal. I let it go to voicemail. Tomorrow, he'd learn exactly who he dismissed from his precious board meeting. Tomorrow, just some nurse would save not just the hospital, but everything it stood for. I pulled out the check one more time, running my fingers over the amount. $50 million to save Mercy General. A bargain, really, considering what it would protect. My watch showed 11:30 p.m. In 12 hours, the board would meet to vote on selling the hospital's soul, but I had a different vote in mind. one backed by enough money and legal power to reshape Mercy General's future. Time to show them what a nurse could really do. 9:00 a.m. I stood in front of Mercy General's main entrance, watching reporters set up their equipment. They'd been told to expect a major announcement about the hospital's future, though none of them knew exactly what was coming. My phone buzzed, a message from my legal team. Golden State representatives have arrived. Dr. Preston is showing them the facilities. Perfect timing. I straightened my Armani suit, a far cry from my usual scrubs, and headed inside. The hospital corridors felt different this morning. No badge, no uniform, no pretense of being just a nurse. Today, I was Alexander Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Medical Technologies and soon-to-be owner of Mercy General Hospital. Alex? Sarah's voice stopped me near the elevator. She'd get a double take at my appearance. What's with the power suit? I thought I'd dress up for the board meeting, I smiled. But they wouldn't let you. Her voice trailed off as she noticed the portfolio in my hands. What are you planning? Come watch and see. The boardroom was on the top floor, with views overlooking the city. Through the glass walls, I could see them assembling. Board members in expensive suits, Golden State executives with predatory smiles, and Dr. Preston at the head of the table, probably already counting his bonus. My assistant appeared at my elbow. Everything's in place. The press is standing by. Security has been briefed. And the documents? She patted her briefcase. All here. Shall we? I checked my watch. 9:15 a.m. Time to crash their party. The boardroom door opened smoothly under my hand. Conversation stopped mid-sentence as heads turned to stare. Dr. Preston's face darkened with recognition and anger. Nurse Mitchell, this is a private meeting. Security. Actually, I said calmly, I have every right to be here. More right than some of you, in fact. Maxwell Richards, Golden State's CEO, frowned at Preston. Who is this? Nobody, Preston snapped. Just a nurse who doesn't know her place. Security will remove. Alexander Mitchell. I cut in smoothly. CEO of Mitchell Medical Technologies and majority debt holder of Mercy General Hospital. The silence was absolute. Preston's face went from red to white as the implications hit him. Several board members started frantically Googling on their phones. Impossible, Preston whispered. My assistant stepped forward, opening her briefcase. The documentation is quite clear. Over the past 3 months, Ms. Mitchell's companies have acquired controlling interest in Mercy General's debt obligations. Additionally, she began distributing folders containing proof of my ownership, my company's financials, and, most importantly, evidence of Preston's backroom dealings with Golden State. This is outrageous. Preston stood, his chair scraping back. The sale to Golden State is already arranged. Is it? I smiled, pulling out the check. Because I'm prepared to offer an alternative. $50 million, Dr. Preston. Enough to clear the hospital's debt, upgrade all facilities, and establish an endowment for future growth. Maxwell Richards leaned forward, shark-like eyes reassessing me. Mitchell Medical Technologies. The Media Alert System. That was you. I nodded. Along with 37 other medical patents currently in use worldwide, including, Dr. Preston, the surgical monitoring system you praised in last month's medical journal. Preston collapsed back into his chair, remembering his glowing review of technology created by just some nurse. The boardroom door opened again. Sarah entered, followed by a stream of hospital staff. Nurses, technicians, orderlies. The people Preston had never bothered to notice. "What is this?" he demanded. "Witnesses," I said simply. "The people who actually make this hospital work. The ones your deal with Golden State would discard." I turned to address the entire room. "For 15 years, I've worked at this hospital. I've watched dedicated professionals struggle with inadequate resources. I've seen families bankrupt themselves for care. I've witnessed the slow erosion of everything Mercy General stands for." Walking to the window, I gestured at the gathering media below. Out there are reporters waiting to hear one of two stories. Either Mercy General sells its soul to become another overpriced private facility, or it recommits to its original mission, providing care to everyone who needs it. "The money," Preston found his voice. "Where did you?" "I earned it." I cut him off. "Every penny. While you were playing politics and making deals, I was solving problems, creating solutions, building something real." My assistant distributed more documents: plans for hospital upgrades, endowment structures, staff retention guarantees. "The choice is simple," I continued. "Accept my offer, and Mercy General becomes a state-of-the-art teaching hospital with guaranteed funding for charitable care. Refuse, and I'll call those reporters right now with evidence of your dealings with Golden State, including," I paused significantly, "the offshore accounts." Preston went pale. Maxwell Richards stood abruptly. "This meeting is over. Golden State withdraws its offer." "Wise choice," I smiled. "The elevator is that way." As the Golden State executives filed out, the hospital staff began to whisper and point at their phones. The story was breaking. Nurse reveal his billionaire tech CEO. Hidden hospital angel emerges. Mercy General saved by unlikely hero. "You've been lying to us for years," Preston accused, desperate to regain control. "Pretending to be something you're not." "No, Dr. Preston. I am exactly what I've always been, a nurse who cares about this hospital and its patients. The only difference is, now I have the power to protect it." The board voted unanimously to accept my offer. They didn't really have a choice. I already controlled most of the hospital's debt. But the public show of support would make the transition smoother. As the meeting concluded, Sarah approached me, shaking her head in amazement. All this time, those anonymous donations, the new equipment, Tommy's treatment. "Guilty?" I admitted. "Though I'd appreciate if you didn't tell him just yet. Let him believe in angels a little longer." The boardroom slowly emptied, leaving me alone with Preston. He sat there, staring at his shattered dreams of corporate wealth. "Why?" he asked finally. "Why keep working as a nurse when you had all this?" I thought about Tommy playing his video games, about his mother working double shifts, about every patient who needed more than just medical care. They needed compassion, dedication, humanity. Because being a nurse isn't what I do, Dr. Preston. It's who I am. The money, the companies, the patents, they're just tools to do it better. My phone buzzed. The press was waiting for a statement. Time to go public with my vision for Mercy General's future. "Oh, and Dr. Preston." I paused at the door. "I'll need your resignation by end of day. This hospital needs a chief of surgery who understands that every member of our staff, from janitors to surgeons, deserves respect." He nodded numbly, finally comprehending just how completely his world had changed. Outside the boardroom, Sarah waited with a small crowd of nurses. Their expressions ranged from shock to joy to lingering disbelief. "What happens now, boss?" someone called out. I smiled, straightening my badge, still marked nursing staff, because that's what I chose to be. Now we build the hospital our patients deserve, starting with the pediatric ward. The future of Mercy General was secure. But first, I had a press conference to handle. And after that, I had a night shift to work. Because some things, the most important things, wouldn't change at all. 6 months later, and with this ribbon cutting, we officially opened the new Mercy General Emergency Care Center. Applause erupted as I handed the scissors to Tommy Martinez, our honorary guest. Now in remission, he beamed as he cut the red ribbon, officially opening the most advanced emergency department in the state. "You did it, Nurse Alex," he whispered as I helped him back into his wheelchair. "You really were our angel." The past 6 months had transformed Mercy General. The $50 million investment had been just the beginning. Once my full resources were committed, the hospital underwent a metamorphosis that made it the talk of the medical community. But the biggest changes weren't the obvious ones. Not the new equipment, renovated facilities, or expanded services. The real transformation was in the hospital's soul. "Ms. Mitchell," a reporter called out, "how does it feel to be named Healthcare Innovator of the Year?" I adjusted my name badge, still reading nursing staff, despite my new official role as hospital owner and board chairperson. The real innovators are our staff. They're the ones who identify problems and inspire solutions. "And you still work regular nursing shifts, even after the Forbes cover?" "Especially after the Forbes cover," I smiled. "You can't improve healthcare from a corner office. You have to be on the floor, working with patients, understanding their needs." The media loved the story. The billionaire nurse who saved her hospital. They called it a fairy tale, a rags-to-riches story. They missed the point entirely. Later that evening, during my regular night shift, Sarah found me checking on Tommy. "The board meeting minutes are ready for your review," she said, now serving as chief of medicine after Preston's departure. "And the new scholarship committee needs your input." "Put them on my desk," I replied, adjusting Tommy's IV. "I'll review them after rounds." "Still can't believe you kept this schedule," she mused. 3 nights a week on regular rotation, running a billion-dollar company, and managing hospital operations. "Balance," I said simply. "The company provides resources, the hospital provides purpose." My phone buzzed, a message from my corporate office about a new medical technology breakthrough. It could wait. Right now, Tommy needed his medication. The night shift passed as it always had, checking patients, updating charts, handling emergencies. The only difference was occasional interruptions from my assistant about business matters. "The Singapore deal needs your signature," she whispered during a brief break. "And the new Media Alert upgrade is ready for testing." "Schedule the signing for tomorrow," I replied, hearing the emergency alert. Right now, we have incoming traumas. The ER filled quickly. A major car accident had brought multiple casualties. I worked alongside the same nurses and doctors who, 6 months ago, had seen me only as just a nurse. Now they knew who I was, but more importantly, they understood why I chose to be exactly where I was. "Nurse Mitchell," Dr. Rodriguez called out, "we need your expertise on this patient's monitoring setup." The Media Alert system, my first major invention, had evolved based on direct experience with patients. Every upgrade, every improvement came from real-world needs identified during shifts like this. As dawn approached, I made my final rounds. The pediatric ward had been completely renovated. now featuring private rooms equipped with the latest technology. But technology wasn't everything. Each room also had comfortable beds for parents, relaxation areas for families, and all the human touches that made healing possible. Morning, boss. The day shift nurses greeted me as they arrived. Some still struggled with how to address me. Was I Nurse Mitchell? Ms. Mitchell? The CEO? I'm still just Alex. I reminded them, the titles don't matter. In my office, a modest space near the nurses' station, not the palatial boardroom, I finally tackled the administrative work. Hospital financials, corporate reports, research proposals, and investment opportunities all demanded attention. A knock at the door interrupted my review. Maxwell Richards, the former Golden State CEO, stood there looking uncomfortable. Ms. Mitchell, do you have a moment? I gestured to a chair, curious. He'd disappeared after the failed takeover, his predatory healthcare model rejected. I've been following what you've done here, he said carefully. The financial models, the operational improvements, the patient outcomes. It's remarkable. Thank you. Our board, we've been discussing a possible partnership. Not a takeover, he added quickly, but implementing your methods across our facilities. Making healthcare more humane. I studied him thoughtfully. And the profit margins. Actually improved, he admitted. Your efficiency models, combined with the goodwill from community support, we're seeing better numbers than our luxury-only approach generated. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared months ago, anticipating this conversation. Here's a preliminary proposal. Review it with your board. But understand, any partnership requires maintaining full charitable care services and staff protection. He took the folder, nodding. You planned for this? I planned for everything, Mr. Richards. It's what good nurses do. After he left, I changed back into scrubs for my weekly pediatric rounds. The children didn't care about my net worth or corporate titles. To them, I was still just Nurse Alex, who played video games and told stories. Tommy was being discharged today. Is treatment successful? His mother waited with tears in her eyes. How can we ever repay you? She asked. Study hard, I told Tommy. Maybe become a nurse yourself someday. But I thought nurses couldn't be rich and powerful, he said innocently. I winked at him. That's exactly what they used to tell me. 1 year later, Mercy General became a model for hospitals nationwide. Our patient care protocols, financial structure, and staff empowerment programs were studied and replicated. The partnership with Golden State transformed dozens of facilities back into true community hospitals. The Nursing Scholarship Program, funded by my company's profits, graduated its first class. Each new nurse received not just education, but mentorship and support to pursue their own innovations. Dr. Preston occasionally sent congratulatory notes about the hospital's success, each one carefully archived with my collection of actual doctors-only memories. Success, as they say, is the best revenge. My dual life continued. Hospital shifts, corporate meetings, research reviews, and patient care blending into a purpose-driven whole. The media eventually tired of the billionaire nurse story, moving on to newer sensations. But the real story wasn't about money or power. It was about remembering why we do what we do. Late one night, during a quiet moment in the ER, Sarah found me updating charts at the nurses' station. You know, she said, you could have bought any hospital, built a new one. Why save this one? I thought about all the lives touched within these walls, all the dedicated professionals who worked miracles with limited resources, All the patients who needed not just care, but compassion. Because some things are worth more than money, I replied. Some things you can't buy. You have to build them, protect them, fight for them. Like a nurse's dedication. Exactly like that. My phone buzzed. Another corporate crisis demanding attention. But first, I had patience to check. Because at the end of the day, I wasn't a billionaire who chose to be a nurse. I was a nurse who became a billionaire. And I never forgot the difference. Epilogue. 5 years later, Mercy General's model revolutionized healthcare delivery across the country. Other hospitals adopted our approach, balancing advanced technology with human compassion, financial stability with charitable mission. The MediaAlert system evolved into a comprehensive healthcare platform, saving countless lives worldwide. Every upgrade still came from direct patient care experience, from real nurses solving real problems. Tommy graduated high school as valedictorian, heading to nursing school on a full scholarship. His graduation speech mentioned angels who walk hospital corridors in nurses' uniforms, proving that power and compassion aren't mutually exclusive. I still work night shifts, still wear the same badge, still believe in the importance of direct patient care. My corporate empire grows, but its purpose remains unchanged. Supporting and advancing the work that happens in hospital corridors every day. Sometimes, new staff members are surprised to find the hospital's owner changing bedpans or checking vitals. They expect wealth to mean distance, power to mean delegation. They don't understand that true power comes from purpose, not position. That real success isn't about escaping the front lines. It's about improving them. Just a nurse, they used to say. Now they understand. There's no such thing as just a nurse. There are only people dedicated enough to do whatever it takes. Whether that's inventing new technology, building business empires, or simply holding a patient's hand through the darkest hours of the night. That's what I am. That's what I'll always be. A nurse who proved that compassion and power can work the same shift, that wealth and dedication can share the same badge, that changing the world sometimes starts with changing a bandage. And every time I pin on that badge, still marked nursing staff, after all these years, I remember the truth that Dr. Preston and his kind never understood. Sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one wearing scrubs. Sometimes the richest person is the one who never forgot why they started. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong, it's proving yourself right. Every single shift, every single patient, every single day. Success comes in many forms, but my family only recognized one. The corporate ladder climbed exactly the way they thought it should be. I'm Alexander Mitchell, and this is the story of how I went from being the family disappointment to the one signing their paychecks. Growing up in the affluent suburbs of Chicago, everything in my life was measured against my siblings' achievements. My older brother Michael was the golden child, Harvard Business School graduate, and rising star at Goldman Sachs. My sister Diana was the perfect corporate attorney, making partner at her firm by 30. And then there was me, the youngest, who dared to think differently. Another startup, Alex? Mom would sigh whenever I mentioned my latest venture. When are you going to get a real job like your siblings? She'd worked at Meridian Technologies for 20 years, climbing from junior analyst to senior vice president of operations. The corporate world was her religion, and my refusal to join, it was nothing short of heresy. Dad wasn't much better. As a retired investment banker, he measured success in quarterly reports and profit margins. My early attempts at entrepreneurship were met with thinly veiled disappointment. You know, He'd say during our weekly family dinners, "Michael's firm is always looking for analysts. With your degree from Northwestern, you'd be a shoo-in." What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been building something bigger than they could imagine. While they saw me bouncing between startups, I was actually executing a carefully crafted plan. It started 5 years ago when I noticed a gap in the tech security market. Companies were spending millions on cybersecurity, but their physical security systems were stuck in the past. I founded Mitchell Security Solutions with $50,000 borrowed from my savings and a vision of integrating AI with physical security infrastructure. The first 2 years were brutal. I worked from my garage, living on ramen and coffee, pouring every penny back into development. My family's comments grew increasingly pointed. "Still playing with your little security company?" Michael would smirk during holiday gatherings. "Let me know if you need a real job. I can put in a word at Goldman." Diana was more direct. "You're embarrassing the family, Alex. Do you know how it looks when people ask what my brother does, and I have to say you work from your garage?" But I had a secret weapon they knew nothing about. Dr. James Anderson, my old professor from Northwestern and one of the leading experts in AI development. He saw the potential in my ideas and became my mentor, opening doors they didn't even know existed. "Keep quiet about it," he advised when we secured our first major contract. "Let them underestimate you. It'll make the revelation so much sweeter." That first contract led to others. Major banks, tech companies, and eventually government facilities began adopting our security systems. I moved operations to a real office but kept the company private, operating through shell corporations to maintain anonymity. The press called me reclusive. I called it strategic. 3 years in, something unexpected happened. Meridian Technologies, my mother's company, announced they were looking to acquire a security firm to modernize their infrastructure. Mom couldn't stop talking about it at family dinners. "It's going to be the biggest acquisition in company history," she'd boast. "They're looking at all the top firms. Of course, they'd never consider one of those small startups." I smiled and passed the potatoes. What she didn't know was that Mitchell Security Solutions had already caught Meridian's attention. Our AI-driven security systems were years ahead of the competition, and our client list was impressive, even if no one knew who owned the company. The acquisition talks were handled through intermediaries. I let my team handle the meetings while I worked behind the scenes. Mom would come home excited about the mysterious company that might save Meridian's security division, never realizing she was talking about her disappointment of a son. Then came the twist that would change everything. During the negotiations, we discovered that Meridian's security infrastructure was weaker than they'd admitted. They weren't just looking for an acquisition. They desperately needed one to prevent a potential security catastrophe. I could have walked away, let them scramble to find another solution. But I saw an opportunity for something better. Instead of a simple acquisition, I proposed a merger that would effectively give Mitchell Security Solutions control of Meridian's entire security division. The board was desperate enough to agree. The final detail: I would become CEO of the merged companies. The papers were signed on a Tuesday. The announcement would be made the following Monday. And in between, Thanksgiving at the Mitchell family home. Mom had been especially insistent about attendance this year. "The CEO is coming," she announced proudly. "He wants to meet the whole family before the big announcement on Monday." What she didn't know was that I'd arranged it deliberately, chosen this moment for maximum impact. The paperwork was signed, the deals were done, and there was nothing anyone could do to change it. Thanksgiving morning arrived crisp and clear. I pulled up to my parents' house in my usual Honda Civic. No need to spoil the surprise with the Porsche just yet. Mom was in full hostess mode, directing caterers and fussing over place settings. "Alex, at least tell me you're wearing the suit I bought you," she said by way of greeting. "Don't worry, Mom. I'm dressed appropriately for the occasion." Michael arrived next, stepping out of his luxury car with his wife Jessica, both dressed like they'd stepped out of a corporate catalog. Diana followed shortly after, already checking emails on her phone. "Look who finally learned to be on time." Diana smirked, eyeing my casual arrival. "Though you could have dressed better for Mom's big day." I just smiled and helped carry dishes to the dining room. As guests began arriving, Mom's colleagues from Meridian, all eager to be present for what they knew would be a historic announcement. The comments about my career choices grew more frequent. "Still working on that startup?" one of Mom's colleagues asked, not bothering to hide his condescension. "Something like that," I replied, checking my watch. Almost time. We gathered around the massive dining table, 24 people in all. Mom was practically glowing with pride as she introduced her executive colleagues, saving the most important announcement for last. "And of course, we're waiting for one more special guest," she said, beaming. "The CEO himself is joining us." That's when she turned to me, her smile faltering slightly. "Alex is still finding himself," she announced to the table, "unlike his successful siblings." The doorbell rang. That must be him. Mom stood quickly, smoothing her dress. Dr. Anderson walked in, his presence commanding immediate attention. He'd agreed to play along with my plan, understanding the importance of timing. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said formally, then turned to me. "Sir, the board is ready for your decision about Monday's announcement." The silence that fell over the table was deafening. Mom's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Michael stopped mid-chew. Diana's phone slipped from her fingers. "Thank you, James," I replied calmly. "Please let them know everything will proceed as planned." Mom's face went through a fascinating series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally, dawning horror as understanding set in. "Alex," she whispered. "What is he talking about?" I stood, straightening my jacket. "Everyone, I believe some introductions are in order. I'm Alexander Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Security Solutions, and, as of Monday, Chief Executive of the merged security divisions of Meridian Technologies and MSS. The turkey wasn't the only thing that got roasted that afternoon, but the real fireworks were just beginning. You could have heard a pin drop in the dining room. 24 faces stared at me in various states of shock, disbelief, and, in the case of my mother's colleagues, dawning recognition. That's impossible," Michael finally sputtered. "Your company is just a small startup. A small startup that just acquired controlling interest in Meridian's security division," Dr. Anderson corrected smoothly. "Though acquired might not be the right word. Rescued might be more accurate, given the state of their current security infrastructure." Mom's face had gone from red to white. As SVP of Operations, she knew exactly how desperate Meridian's security situation had been. And now she was realizing that her disappointment of a son had been their salvation. "The garage company," Diana whispered, her legal mind putting pieces together. "All those years, it wasn't failing. You were building the most advanced AI-driven security system in the industry." I finished for her. "Yes, though I have to thank you all. Your constant criticism made it much easier to operate in stealth mode." One of Mom's colleagues, Brad from Finance, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Mitchell, You never mentioned your son was the founder of MSS. She didn't know, I said quietly. None of them did. They were too busy being embarrassed by my little startup to actually ask what I was building. Dad, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally found his voice. The valuation, the merger terms. $8 billion, Dr. Anderson supplied helpfully. Though that's just the initial valuation. Once we announce the new security contracts next quarter. The sound Mom made was somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. She'd spent 20 years climbing Meridian's corporate ladder, and her youngest son had just become her boss. If you'll excuse me, I stood, straightening my tie. Dr. Anderson and I have some details to finalize before Monday's announcement. Mom, thanks for dinner. Though I suspect future family gatherings will be different. As I turned to leave, Michael jumped up. Wait, all those times I offered you a job at Goldman were deeply appreciated, I smiled. In fact, Goldman is one of our biggest clients. Your boss reports to my board next week about their security upgrade needs. Jessica, Michael's wife, actually snorted into her wine glass. She'd always been the only one who bothered to ask about my work with genuine interest. The next few days were chaos. News of the merger leaked, and suddenly the reclusive tech genius behind Mitchell Security Solutions was front-page news. My face was splashed across business magazines, my overnight success story, dissected by talking heads who had no idea it was built on years of careful planning. Monday morning, I walked into Meridian's headquarters for the official announcement. The security guard did a double-take. He was used to waving me through as Mrs. Mitchell's son when I visited Mom for lunch. Now he was scrambling to find my new executive access badge. The boardroom was packed. Mom sat rigid in her SVP chair, looking like she'd aged 10 years over the weekend. The other executives were a mix of nervous and curious. They'd all heard rumors about my management style. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, let's talk about the future of corporate security. For the next hour, I laid out my vision. The integration of AI with physical security, the predictive threat analysis system, the contracts we'd already secured with major global corporations. With each revelation, I could see my mother's colleagues realizing just how badly they'd underestimated me. And finally, I concluded, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, my mother is SVP of Operations. No, this won't affect her position. I paused for effect. Her performance review will be handled by the board, just like any other executive. The relief on Mom's face lasted exactly 3 seconds before she realized what that meant. She'd have to prove her worth just like everyone else, without family connections to fall back on. After the meeting, she tried to catch me alone. Alex, honey, we should talk. Of course, I replied professionally. Have your assistant contact mine for a meeting. I'm pretty booked this week, but we should be able to find time next Tuesday. Her face crumpled slightly. I'm your mother. And I'm your CEO, I said quietly. We'll need to figure out how to navigate that professionally. Just like you always wanted me to learn about the corporate world, remember? The next few weeks were a masterclass in family dynamics under corporate pressure. Michael suddenly discovered a burning interest in cybersecurity, sending me lengthy emails about potential synergies between our companies. Diana's law firm mysteriously ended up pitching for our legal work. They weren't successful. Dad tried to play peacemaker, inviting me to his country club to talk things over. I accepted, arriving in my new Porsche, enjoying the way his golf buddies' heads turned. You could have told us, he said over drinks. Would you have believed me? I asked. Or would you have tried to take over, push me into doing things your way? just like always. He had no answer for that. The real change came during the first quarter earnings call. Our integrated security system had exceeded all projections, driving Meridian's stock to record highs. Mom sat in on the call, watching as I fielded questions from analysts who used to ignore her, now hanging on my every word. "Mr. Mitchell," one analyst asked, "your mother has been with Meridian for 20 years. How does it feel to be her boss?" I smiled, looking directly at Mom. Success in business isn't about family connections or following traditional paths. It's about innovation, vision, and the courage to build something new. I learned that by watching my mother's career, even if we disagreed about how to apply those lessons. She cried later in her office. I pretended not to notice when I passed by. Christmas that year was interesting. Gone were the snide comments about my career choices, replaced by awkward attempts to show they'd supported me all along. "I always knew you had potential," Michael claimed, conveniently forgetting years of condescension. "Remember when I helped you with your first business plan?" Diane added, apparently forgetting she'd refused to even read it. Mom had prepared my favorite dishes, a transparent attempt at reconciliation. But as we sat around the table, the power dynamics had shifted irrevocably. "I got you something," I said, handing Mom a small package. Inside was a framed copy of my first business plan, the one I'd written in that garage they'd been so ashamed of. Attached was a note. "Thanks for teaching me that success comes in many forms, even if you didn't mean to." 5 years have passed since that Thanksgiving revelation. Meridian's security division, under my leadership, has become the industry standard. Michael's firm now pays us handsomely for their security needs, and Diana's law firm regularly loses bids to our preferred counsel. Mom still works at Meridian, though she's no longer SCVP. She took a different role, heading up our corporate training division. Turns out she's excellent at teaching others about corporate structure, even as she struggled to see beyond it herself. Last month, Northwestern Business School invited me to give the commencement speech. As I stood at the podium, I could see my family in the audience, their expressions so different from those dismissive looks of years past. Success isn't always about climbing the ladder someone else built, I told the graduates. Sometimes it's about building your own ladder, even if others can't see where it leads. And sometimes the best revenge isn't proving others wrong. It's proving yourself right in ways they never imagined possible. After the ceremony, Mom hugged me tightly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We were so focused on our version of success, we couldn't see you were creating something better." "It's okay," I replied. "Though I hope you've learned to ask about people's garages. You never know what they're building in there." Dad shook my hand, pride finally reaching his eyes. "You showed us all," he said simply. Yes, I did. But the real victory wasn't in proving them wrong. It was in building something that made their version of success look small by comparison. These days, when people talk about the Mitchell family, they don't mention Michael's banking career or Diana's law partnership. They talk about the youngest son who revolutionized corporate security, who built an empire from a garage, while his family was too busy judging to notice. And Mom? She finally stopped introducing me as her son who was finding himself. Now she just says, "This is Alex, my son, and my boss." The pride in her voice is real now, earned rather than expected. Sometimes the best success story isn't about following the path others set for you. It's about blazing your own trail and letting them catch up when they finally see where it leads. Last week, I bought my parents' house, the one where that fateful Thanksgiving dinner took place. Not to live in, but to convert into Mitchell Security's new innovation center. The garage where I started will become our AI research lab. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't just success. It's turning the place they doubted you into the foundation of an empire they never saw coming. And that's a success story even my family had to admit they never saw coming.